Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's Ia Patsy, and today is March 11th, 2020. It is 10:12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I was compelled and drawn and led or whatever to come and make this video right now. I don't know that I'm going to be led to do any readings, but it's like a rant. That's what they just keep saying, just rant. So what precipitated this is this morning I was talking to my son. I was watching the news programs this morning, and somehow or another came across talking about something that happened to Chris Matthews. Hi, good morning. Thank you for coming. You can tell me that you're here, and thank you for giving us a thumbs up, please. So, so other people know that I'm here doing this. But in any event, I was talking to my son, and we were discussing. Hey, hi, good morning. Good morning, Alexandria. Good morning, Juanicia. Good morning, you guys. Um, so I was talking to my son, and something came up about Chris Matthews, who is a journalist, NBC. He was a journalist on NBC for years. I enjoyed watching him all of my life. My mom, my dad, um, and he's a little spicy, and we don't always agree with him, but he's a fixture. And I'd seen something about like I had seen his name, come up in my feed over the last couple of days, but I didn't really pay too much mind to what it was about. So my son, it was brought up again on Morning Joe this morning, and then my son was saying something about it. So I pulled up the video and I saw what he had said, that he was resigning right then, that day. I didn't see the whole show, but I come to find out later when I watched The View, and they were discussing it, that he actually left the set and Steve Kanacki took over, and that Steve Kanacki was visibly shaken and crying because he didn't know that that was happening. No one knew that Chris was going to quit. He had just made that decision as he took the stage that evening, and I was like, it must have something to do with the Me Too movement or something. My son was like, nah, not Chris Matthews. Lo and behold, that's may have been what it was. Okay, so and the first thing that started happening, and my poor son, God bless him, he gets subjected to the rantings of his 60-year-old mom. But I was like, not for nothing. I get it. And, it's disgusting. And, they need to be held accountable for it. But you got to understand really what, these guys are in their 70s and mid 70s, early 80s, late 60s, and whatever. Even yeah, we women of this age know the misogyny firsthand. We have experienced it. It's not as fable to us, but at the same time, if you look at the context of the socialization of these men living here in the United States of America, living here in New York. I lived through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 20,000s, now going into 2020, God willing, continue. But I saw a lot. I was witness to a lot of this stuff, right? Um, and the atmosphere around the culture outside of what's written. In the 1970s, late in the 60s, 70s, they had just discovered the birth control pill. So women had control over their sexuality. And it was a liberating time. Now, I was a kid, so I wasn't part of that. But I'm just saying what I was remember seeing and hearing and reading about, and the talk that was going on, and it continued, right? So birth control was available to women um, on demand. You go to your doctor writes a prescription, you go to pharmacist, you pick it up, cool, right? Good. Thank you so much for coming here, and thank you for giving me thumbs up, everybody. Um, Continue to give us thumbs up so more people know if they want to watch this, they can. I remember my mother telling me that even though she was married and had three children already. And she was a nurse. My father had to sign a consent slip for her to get birth control. So it was a big deal. And that was the time of free love and hippies, and they were protesting against Vietnam, and all of this other stuff was going on, right? So that's context. Some of these guys went and served in the military, who are in that age range now. They went to Vietnam. They served their country. Some of them didn't, but they went to college, and they became educated. They, made their place in the world. These are the people that we see now being brought down by the Me Too movement. Believe me, I get it, because I don't even know if the people that I would point out are even still alive, because they were, teachers and mentors, and, people who were older than me anyway. So I don't know that it even be worth it. And I did try to speak about it over the last 10 years with my college, and I was like, whatever. They kind of blew it away. But and that's not the point. The point is, not in defense of this behavior. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not a defender of this behavior, but I'm also trying to look at things from a higher perspective. And I thank God for the ability to be able to do that. And we are losing a lot of good people, basic good people who just missocialized, right? And are being held accountable for the way they were raised. Even though it may be disgusting and wrong, that's the atmosphere that they grew up in. And then I started to tell my son this thing, and it was like mind blowing to him. So maybe this will kind of give y'all an idea of where I'm coming from. Back in 1970, in the 70s, there's a soap opera called General Hospital, still on today on ABC. This is not asking for General Hospital to be affected in any way. This is not a rant about ABC. I'm just trying to tell you all the context that these men were living in, and we women were living in. We're just as guilty of it in our own way, because in 1978 through 1988, there was a storyline on General Hospital, and I'm sure you all have heard of it because it's famous. Luke and Laura, right? That was their storyline. Luke and Laura were characters on General Hospital. Now, played by Anthony Gary was Luke, and Laura was, that's terrible, right? I can't remember her name, but when I know it when I see it. Luke and Laura. There's a Wikipedia just about Luke and Laura. Yeah, Anthony Gary and Jeannie Francis, right? I don't know if you all can see, but you can go to Wikipedia and see Anthony Gary and Jeannie Francis from Luke and Laura. Now, the way the storyline started off in General Hospital, Laura was married to Scotty Baldwin. Scott Baldwin's father was a very good attorney. He was a good guy's part. You got the heroes and you got the anti-heroes on soap opera. So um, Scotty Baldwin was Scott Baldwin's son, and he was an attorney. And Scotty fell in love with Laura, and Laura and they had a big wedding. It was a big deal on the show. People followed that. Yes, their little romance, very cute. Laura and Scotty bought a disco, and they hired Luke, who was a kind of a drifter, who was brothers from one of the nurses in General Hospital, who's also a big character. And I think she kind of had a thing with Scotty. She had a crush on Scotty. So her brother came to town, and her brother got a job working in Laura and Scotty's disco. And the Luke and Laura storyline started when Luke raped Laura on the disco floor. And there was no question that it was a rape, because she was assaulted, and she went through all of the, victim, symptoms, and, you know, It was a big deal. It was a big deal. It was vengeance. It was, police. It was a big deal. Now, if you think that was a rape, that rape somehow or another evolved to the love story of the century, Luke and Laura. They became heroes. Somehow or another, through the magic of great writers, script writers, and audiences, Laura fell in love with her rapist and left her sweetheart, her childhood sweetheart, her husband, Scotty, this good guy, and divorced him and married Luke eventually, but left Scotty to be with Luke after Luke raped her. And she didn't keep it a secret that Luke had raped her. And this changed Scotty from the good guy to the bad guy because he was married to her. He was there with her through her, this whole thing, and he loved her. And Luke was a criminal, but somehow or another, the story turned in, and it lasted 2 plus 2, right? Okay, I say it lasted from 1978. No, 1979 to 1988. And when I tell you this entire country, if not this entire globe, was engulfed in this storyline. And not too many people brought up the fact that although this started as a rape, because we had gotten so sucked in, it was part of our culture. They were people were I think that's why they really made VCRs because people wanted to see it, and it came on at 4 o'clock in the East Coast, and people were still at work or they were traveling on the train. And remember, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have DVDs and stuff. And I think that's part of the reason why they started making VCRs so that people could tape the show. The televisions were installed everywhere. All of that was because everybody wanted to know what was going on with Luke and Laura today. I remember being in church and my pastor and in other churches and their pastors talking about how consumed that we all were with this storyline. And it was, and it wasn't about the fact that there was a rape. That wasn't even brought up. It was just your attention should be on your, salvation and that Christianity and not sucked into this soap opera because it was serious. They have anniversaries, 25th anniversary of the Luke and Laura story. You see all the pictures of the beautiful, beautiful wedding they had with the horse-drawn carriages and the whole 9 yards, and famous people. I think Elizabeth Taylor was there, and all kinds of. This was big deal. So then, if this is a 10-year period of time that these 70-year-old guys and women, all of us, was living in on television for an hour a day, it consumed the society and the culture. And it's telling you the mindset of the writers and what we were willing to accept. To turn around now, just like I was saying before, I don't know if anyone has ever heard when I was saying about Bill Cosby and all of that stuff that was going on. This is the same time period, the same group of people, the same society that is now getting older. They're turning 70 and 80 and 90, those men and these women. And those of us who are in our 60s and 50s, we witnessed this too. We saw what happened, even the ones in their 30s. We saw a piece of this. Remember, it went from 79 to 88. So it spanned a decade almost. And General Hospital's still on the air. And every now and then they have revived that story somehow. And when Anthony Gary retired, there was a big deal about it when he was no longer on the show, including times that he left and came back, and times that she left and came back. But like I'm saying, it's a cultural thing. It's iconic, and you can check Wikipedia or anybody, or ask your mothers and your fathers and your grandparents. They'll tell you about General Hospital during that time. So here we are with this type of culture, and we want to hold to the standard that should have always been, but has never been, because we know that the United States was built on rape and separation of children from their families and their mothers, and that is still continuing today, and we're allowing it to go on, but that's another conversation. But this is how we the United States has come about. This is, men conquering women. All right. A lot of the racism that we experience is because of the fear of one tribe of men conquering another tribe of men, women, because women is their property, right? This is the culture, the mindset of these people. So to think now, not only are we trying to change their behavior, which is absolutely correct, and not only remind them of and hold them accountable for their bad behavior so they see how they did wrong. You want to just like take away their voices and ruin their careers and banish them from, like really? Then we should go and tear down the Playboy mansion brick by brick. And Playboy and Hustler magazine and all of those magazines should be taken off of the shelves. But that would be encroaching on freedom of speech, right? And people's choices. And if you want to, partake in that, you have a right to do that. But this is the culture that has created these men. Thank you, Anita. Okay, this is the culture that has created not only these men, but we women who have endured it, have allowed it, have been accepting of it, have done it in our own ways. This cougar thing, same mentality, kind of, if you get a woman who is 10 years older than the man and she's in her 50s and he's in his 30s or 40s, that's cool. But if, he's a student and she's a teacher, then we're going to put her in jail now. That was happening for years and it was never. Again, these guys, thank you, were brought up in the time where you had your girlfriend was the teacher, you were the man. If you were dating a professor, you were the man. If your first sex experience was with an older woman, whoa, you was, even though we know that that may have been child abuse, to them it was bragging points. Okay, I've heard men tell me that they've had sex with their sister's friends the first time, that and it was the women approached them because they were little boys as young as 9, 10, 11. School, in the closet in school. The closet used to fold in some of the public schools, and you could be in there and nobody know you because you couldn't even see your feet underneath, right? That happened for some boys. Some boys, it was a cousin. Some boys, it was a friend of a sister or a cousin. Some boys, it was their mother's friend. Some boys, it was their babysitter. I'm just saying, we didn't treat that like rape. They didn't report it as rape. They reported it to the other boys, and they was all, high fiving and pounding one another. But now, today, we know that that is abuse. We also know that that behavior is what has probably spawned some of the disrespect that they have for women because of the way they were first sexualized. Okay, so for men, maybe some men, because they were sexualized in that manner by an older woman or inappropriate type of a situation, that kind of changed their perspective. And then if they were young boys, more than likely they had fallen in love at some point or had some kind of a puppy love crush. And then when they realized that it wasn't going nowhere, that changed their mindset about women also. It affected their mindset about women. Not everybody, I'm just saying, a lot of them. So all I'm saying is that we need to be looking at this, especially if we calling ourselves, spiritually aware and divine feminines and divine masculines, is to look at this from a different perspective and give all of this some context. And at the same time, remember the hypocrisy that we're looking at, because we have one part of society in this country, or even globally, that wants to hold people accountable. The people they want to hold accountable are the people who are who have who have a conscience, who have a shame within themselves, who are trying to be self-aware, who have some type of connection to the universe, their higher power. They may be, related to some religion or something like that. They have a sense of right and wrong. Yet we allow some folks to do these exact same things, and if not worse. And then we continue to allow it. What we must be aware that is also part of the trick is to take the ones who listen. Everybody is with sin, all right? There's no one without sin except Christ. If you're, going by the Holy Scriptures, right? King James Version of the Bible. But there are men and women in the Scriptures who weren't perfect, who failed, who allowed their egos to get ahead of them. Yet and still they were able to be of service to the community and to God, right? To the Creator. Many examples of that. But if they were taken out of those positions, or if we didn't allow them some room to be human, to be imperfect, to be corruptible, then maybe we wouldn't have a lot of what we have today. Maybe we wouldn't have some of the music, or some of the prose, some of the scientific inventions and advances in science and medicine and all kinds of things, because we would have held those people to those standards and taken them out of circulation. And what does the enemy want more than anything? To keep us ignorant and impoverished and squabbling amongst one another over stuff that they allow their tribe to get away with exactly and exalt them for. So all I'm saying is that let's be more careful about the consequences that we subject these fallible humans to. And can we not weigh what they've done and who they are? There was one woman who said that she's worked with Chris, not just Chris, but she worked in an atmosphere with a man, and her and the man, they have always flirted back and forth for years, and it's always been just that. And if someone were to turn around and say that it was sexual harassment on his part, they probably would have a case. But it was never that. It was always banter. It was always flirtation. And there are women among us out here in society know very good and well that we do have guy friends at work that we, over time, that we may have engaged in that kind of banter with. Someone who was like a brother, kind of like a friend, like a cousin, not somebody that you were sleeping with, but just somebody that you was just cool with it like that. And if other people overheard you, they would think the two of you had something going on and it wasn't. Or they would say that it was some, they would say it would, those words that he would have used towards you may have been sexual harassment. But you engaged in it and you went back and forth with it, so it doesn't count, right? It doesn't. If you pass away tomorrow and somebody got a transcript of the conversations between you and this guy friend, and you're not there to defend it or say anything, what would they do to him? So some of us have encouraged it, some of us have participated in it, and all I'm saying is, come on, people. Let's not be hypocrites, and let's also try to be understanding. If we're going to say, oh, we can't hold people accountable for slavery because that was their great, 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 great grandparents, even though they're still benefiting from the spoils. We can't hold them accountable. How are we holding people accountable for their words? Now, action, someone, tries to rape somebody or, make someone do something in order to get a job and all that, whatever. But I'm talking about like just inappropriate remarks, um, things like that. Stop, people. Stop. jokes, things that we thought were funny. What would we have done with Lenny Bruce and Richard Pryor in today? What would we have if we and Bill Cosby is in the same time span with Richard Pryor? The problem is Richard Pryor has already passed away. So would we be putting Richard Pryor in jail too? Things that he may have done, things that he joked about and admitted to, or Lenny Bruce, or any of those comedians, Don Rickles, any of them, Red Fox. We have allowed, we have lived. Society evolves, just like everything evolves, right? Evolution happens. So it's an evolution of whether or not you're crawling and when you stand. Evolution as you start to get more words in your vocabulary, starting to have better understanding of your, the universe, what's around you, science, all of this. And the relationship between men and women is always changing, it's always evolving, and there are things that we do better now than we did then. Men, didn't know about erogenous zones and how to please their women, and what was an orgasm. Women didn't know what an orgasm was until someone wrote about it, and it became part of the culture, and we started talking about it, and it became something that people discussed, and so the relationships changed and shifted. Okay. There was always cheating going on. People were not getting divorced, but they would have a family or mistress some other way, out of town, or they would leave one family or whatever. There's just, this society has gone through all kinds of situations and evolutions. We have witnessed all kinds of things. And these men have witnessed the Cuban Missile Crisis, President Kennedy getting assassinated, Martin Luther King getting assassinated, Malcolm X getting assassinated, Challenger spaceship blowing up right on live television, the men walking on the moon. Yes, it happened live. Um, Robert Kennedy getting assassinated right after he won the California primary, live on television. We saw it. These men saw it. We saw it. We lived through that. 9/11, Oklahoma City, DC snipers, Watergate, Bill Clinton's impeachment scandal, Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas. All of these situations we have witnessed to, and we have changed, hopefully, and evolved, hopefully. And we can see it, because if we hadn't, then we wouldn't be having this discussion, because nobody would be getting into trouble for things that they said before. All I'm saying is, like, when when South Africa got rid of apartheid and elected Nelson Mandela to be president, he did not go around and start executing and removing people from positions that had perpetuated such pain and hurt and inequality on the Black people that were indigenous to South Africa. Instead, he just said, come forward, say what you did, say how you did it, and what mechanisms we need to adjust so it doesn't happen again. If you had some kind of power structure like that. And that's what he did. It was like a purging, like a come to Jesus type of a time in South Africa, where you came forth and you confessed your sins and you were forgiven. And then they went on. They didn't murder people for it. They didn't kill people. You know what I'm saying? They just used it as a teachable moment. And that's how peace was able to exist in South Africa when they made that drastic change from the apartheid system to from the apartheid system to Mandela becoming their president. and I know I'm just skipping over it. I'm making it very general, and I know I'm not a history major or anything like that, but I have been witness to these changes in society, and I'm also trying to evolve in my spirituality. And if I can look at my life in a different perspective, my life is not just what I do. My life is the culture that I've grown up in. The community is the culture that I grew up in. And so I want to thank Chris Matthews. He's given a big joke to my family, as a matter of fact, because my grandson, when he was much younger, and it was so funny, he looked at my mother and he said, "Mom, Grandma, you need a boyfriend." And we were like, "Well, what do you know about a boyfriend?" Because he was like 5, 6. He says, "Because all you do is watch MSNBC and scream at Chris Matthews all day." So that's what it is. Okay, that's who Chris Matthews was, part of our family, like I said, and I will miss him, even though sometimes I wanted to slap him in the face or hit him in the head. He got a little too spicy sometimes, but still, he is a good man, and I thank him. And I wish him and his family a lot of positive things. His son is actually an actor. When his son was on that show on HBO, that was about, it was Newsroom. I think it was called Newsroom, whatever. But his son was one of the cast members. That was a great show, and Chris Matthews had the actors and the producers and writers of that show on his own show from time to time, and they talked about the effect of news and the effect that reporters have on the culture of a society. It was really a great show, and as is Hardball, and whoever's going to take over that time period. It could be Joy Reid or Steve Kanacki, even though Steve's going to be pretty busy with this election right now. But just wish him well, and he's well done. Good job. You're only human, right? Just like the rest of us. I say. So anyway, I'm going to stop this, and then I will come back and I will do some readings. Okay, so give me about it's 10:45. Let's say by 11 o'clock, I'll come back, and in exchange for you all enduring, all right, tolerating me ranting this morning, I'll pull some cards, all right, and I need to start getting some things done anyway. So thanks everybody, and I will be back. Thank you for coming by. Don't forget to like and share this message, please. Please share this message, all right? Because I think we all need to get a grip, all right? So share this message, and I'll be speaking to everyone real soon. Peace. Namaste. Bye, Juanita. Let's be right back.